Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. Today, Matt Harrington and myself are excited to have Chris Norton as our guest. He's an inspirational and keynote speaker who defied a 3% chance to ever be able to walk again after suffering a spinal cord injury during his collegiate football career, and went on to be able to walk at his college graduation and his wedding. He's inspired millions of people worldwide, and he's featured in the documentary 7 Yards and has spoken to a lot of big organizations. We're super excited to learn from him today and his lessons about leadership.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. Matt and I are super excited to have Chris Norton with us. This isn't Chris Norton, my brother, because I have a brother named Chris. And
not related to Richie either.
Yeah, we had Richie Norton on our podcast recently as well. So this is the month of Nortons, I guess. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no, good to be here. You must love the Nortons. Maybe we're like a distant cousin or something.
Yeah, we'll have to look up look at our family history, see if there's a connection there or not. Well, and for our listener, Chris has an amazing story. He's a keynote speaker. He's got a documentary called 7 Yards, right, Chris, on Netflix.
Yeah.
And sorry,
no longer on Netflix. It's on Apple TV Prime Video. The license expired with Netflix.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If you've listened to our podcast before, or if you followed with us for a while, Mike Durnan, who's on the podcast, introduced us to Chris and said, "Hey, you got to have Chris on and hear Chris's story." So yeah, we're excited this is happening today. So, Chris, could you tell our listener who may not be familiar a little bit about who you are and your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. Love sports. Love competition. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be rock, paper, scissors, or card game. You name it. Like I love competing, and so I love competing in football. I love the physicality of it. I think I consider myself a nice guy, but it was always kind of fun to like put on the shoulder pads and the helmet, and you can be as mean and tough as you want to be. And I kind of love that. So then I went to play football at Luther College and was never fast enough to get any D1 offers, which would have been awesome. I was a big Iowa Hawkeye fan, but given the 40 speed, went to Luther College, Division III school up in Northeast Iowa. So then it was freshman year. 6th game of my freshman season. Third quarter, we're getting our butts kicked, but we're mounting a little bit of a comeback. We had just scored a touchdown, cutting it to a 2-score game. So I run out to the field for the kickoff, and at 18 years old, I felt like I was on top of the world. Like probably most 18-year-olds, I kind of had my life all figured out. I was gonna be this all-American football player, marry the girl of my dreams, and then buy a lake house. Or better yet, the girl of my dreams' parents would already own a lake house. And I kind of felt like I was on my way there because I was playing more than any freshman in my class. Well, anyway, kind of back to the field. The kicker, he huddles us up. He calls the play mortar kick right, which is this short, high arching kick to the right side of the field. I don't know why we didn't just call it kick right, because our kicker was so bad. Every kick was short and low arching. Anyway, I'm excited. I play on the right side of the field. So this is my chance to make an impact and to be in on the action. Ball's kicked. I'm sprinting downfield as hard as I can go. I see this opening for me. My instincts are telling me that the ball carrier, he's going to try to run through that gap, but I'm going to stop him. Well, I'm not just going to stop him. Like, my goal was to just destroy him. I want to cause a fumble. I was not afraid of contact, which is why they put lunatics like me on the kickoff. Anyway, like a torpedo, I crashed into his legs, but I mistimed my tackle by a split second. Instead of hitting him with my shoulder like I have done thousands of times before, I accidentally hit him head on. The next thing I know, I'm face down on the ground and I can't get up. I start to panic, not because I think I'm seriously injured, but because I don't want the game to stop for me. That's embarrassing for a wannabe tough guy. But no matter how hard I try to move, nothing is working. It feels like someone had just flipped the power off to my body. People are always amazed though. Like, I remember everything from that day. Like, I was completely conscious. I never lost conscious once. It just felt like a routine tackle, except for this time I just couldn't get up right away. But the gravity of the situation definitely like slowly sank in because, first there was the athletic trainers. They're all surrounding me. The team doctor got involved and she was trying to remove my face mask, but couldn't because her hand was shaking so badly from just anxiety of the situation. The paramedics get involved. By this point, the once cheering stadium is deathly silent. My parents, they come onto the field. They're doing their best to reassure me, but I can hear the worry in their voices. And then probably the moment that I finally kind of started to realize the severity of the situation actually came when I was being carried out the field on the stretcher. You would think all those other all the other things happening on the field, I mean, oh yeah, this is really bad, but I was still able to rationalize it all away because my mind was working just overtime to convince myself that things still could be okay. Like, they're just being extra cautious. It's better to be safe than sorry. But when they're carried off my field, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners all know that, like, when the injured athletes hop off the field, the crowd claps. And then the injured athlete gives a thumbs up or a wave. I've seen this play out thousands of times. Well, when I try to give a thumbs up to the crowd as they're clapping for me, after all this time, I still couldn't move a thing. And that's when it hit me. Like, I have watched and played in thousands of games where I've never once seen the athlete not able to acknowledge the crowd in some way. And so this is when it just struck me like, this is bad. But now, looking back, I wish I could have been the first athlete to ever give a thumbs down. I could have just asked the paramedic, hey, bro, can you just grab my hand and point my thumb down? Not doing so good. I missed out on my opportunity to be the first athlete to give that thumbs down, but, we all have our regrets. But eventually I am flown to Mayo Clinic, emergency surgery, and given a 3% chance to ever move below my neck.
That's wild. So, I mean, you probably do this on purpose. We want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously that's like a massive thing to be up against, right? So yeah, if you would keep going, tell us a little bit about what you then faced and how you found the resiliency, the strength to overcome everything that you faced in the next part.
For sure. Yeah. And I'll even kind of add this in too, of just kind of the moment too, like another moment that just rocked my world came that night. I get to the hospital. They put me through a series of check scans, x-rays, MRI. They had to actually like re-break my neck back into place. It was so badly dislocated. They had to do all these things before surgery. And while this was all happening, I knew it wasn't good, obviously, but I was afraid to like ask too many questions. I saw that they were all like they were all trying to get as much answers as possible. And so I didn't want to like prematurely ask a question that I would get a response that would be like disappointing or like would just crush my spirit. So I get to the operating table. The surgeon, he walks in and he asks, okay, do you have any questions? I'm like, all right. In my head, I'm like, you got to ask. And so the question was, will I walk again? But then seeing the look on his face and then his response of, I don't know, was soul crushing. Because my mind, like, it just so badly wanted to believe it's gonna be okay. It's not that serious. It's not that bad. And that's what I did my whole life. I've always tried to find a reason to believe, be optimistic. It's all gonna work out. Kind of a Pollyanna sort of view. But when you don't get rocked with too large of adversity in your life, it's kind of easy to believe that. And this is kind of a moment where I was faced with reality and there was just no changing it, no matter how many rose-colored glasses you try putting on. And that's when I lost it, like tears just streaming down my face, and then I'm put to sleep. And actually, as they're putting me to sleep, I could see in the nurses, like behind their masks, they were all starting to cry too. I could tell, just like having an 18-year-old kid on the operating table like this was just emotionally shook up everybody in the room. But yeah, so then the next morning, just still in just complete disbelief. My parents are camped out next to me, monitors beeping and surrounded by tubes and wires. The surgeon comes in and pretty much confirms kind of um, what we kind of thought, that he said, like, it's a 3% chance to feel removed below the neck. Now, this is where surprises people, is when I'm told that, I kind of go into this like Twilight Zone mode of like an out of body experience. Like, you can almost see yourself and everybody in the room, and uh, like everything else he said, I have no idea what he said. Like, everything was just lost after that moment. There's kind of like a before and after, and I just can't remember anything after him saying that. But as it starts to like sinks in a little bit, I just almost like you're backed up into the corner and you can fight, flight, flee. And my response was like, fight. Like, no way, not me. Like, this is not gonna beat my life. Like, I am going to beat the odds. Like, I will do whatever it takes each and every day to be a member of that 3%. Like, I just refuse to believe that I'm going to be the 97%. I just, no, like, I just couldn't. Like, my mind and how I dreamed and thought about my life, like, it just did not fit with the plan. Like, this is not part of the plan. I got to get back to the plan. I got to get back to, find that dream girl, the All-American football player, the lake house. Like, this is not one of the steps. Like, so, and I think too, like, mine was very extreme, but I think we all have those moments where we're facing our own 3% chance. It could be an obstacle that looks impossible to overcome, mistake you feel like you come back from, or just a goal that you just feel is out of reach. Well, in that hospital room, deep down, I just knew, like, statistics and opinions, that they don't determine your future. Your response does. And if you don't like where you are, like, you have the power to do something about it. And I believed in that power, that we can change the course of our lives with what we do right now in this moment. That there's something too, I think, being an athlete, and my dad, he was a coach, and he was, being a coach's kid, he's hard on you, but he sees the best in you. And I feel like I've always, he really helped install that in me of, like, if you don't like where you are, then you got to go do something about it. Like, complaining and feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to change where you're at. It's a waste of energy. And so I had to use that lesson more than ever to get to crawl myself or climb myself out of this hole.
Wow. That is incredible. So I have a question. You kind of mentioned this, right? That sometimes people, all of us have like find ourselves in a situation where we're looking at kind of that 3% versus the 97% chance of it working or overcoming. And again, you alluded to this. Sometimes that's cast on us. Like in your case, you had this external thing happen to you, and then you still have the choice how you respond. And a lot of times it seems like we almost create that. Like I know I create that for myself sometimes. Like I just decide almost arbitrarily, I think there's only a 3% chance of me doing this or this working out, and a 97% chance that it won't. And that's all created in my own mind. What have you learned, Chris, about the difference, if there is one to you, in how we respond when it's more of an external thing versus just something that like a limitation that we create in our own mind?
Yeah, like kind of like the change you choose versus like the change that happens to you. Is that kind of what
Yeah, and
you're?
is there even a difference in how you would say we can respond, or is it a similar mechanism of response?
Yeah, I think what's the change you choose sometimes is oftentimes harder than the change that happens to you, because when the change happens to you, like uh, I think sometimes there's less blame. That sometimes like you're forced into that uncomfortable area where you have to just figure it out, like sink or swim kind of way, where like when you have to choose that change, when you have to go step out and do something that you're not familiar with and you have the option to retreat. I think we're all just like how we're designed just biologically and how God made us is we want to stay in our comfort zone. Like we want to stay with what's safe and yeah, familiar. And so to take that step to do something that nobody else is doing or to do something you're not used to doing, I think we're gonna give ourselves not very good odds. We're gonna try it. We might dip our toe in the water, but then we're like, all right, that's not for me, versus really giving yourself time that you need. And plus, I mean, the day and age, it's instant gratification. Like I struggle with this. Like I want things like if I want to get a new toothbrush, like I want to get it today from Amazon. Oh, I have to wait tomorrow. Like, are you kidding me? Like it's silly, right? Like we're before like, okay, it'd be the next week when you go grocery shopping, right? But there's just so many different things are so or I can't wait for commercials. I hate commercials. I just like I just can't stand it. But that's all to say. I think to make the changes that are worth changing for our lives to grow into what we're capable of, I think it's harder than ever. Just with the day and age with technology and uh, but yeah, it still comes down to just to making that choice to like to move towards the discomfort and staying there. Like don't let yourself go back. And that's hard. And it's also hard to look awkward, to fail, to not be seen as like a professional or to see like you got it all figured out. And we got to kind of step into that space where we don't have it all figured out. It is awkward. It is uncomfortable. And can you stay there? And so that's why it's hard to choose the change worth changing versus something just forcing you into that spot where you got to figure it out. And then you realize, wow, I am capable of more. Like I realize there's so much more strength in me than I ever had, but it was kind of forced out by putting myself in a really extreme situation. And so when I do my motivational speaking, I really hope I can touch like people's hearts and help them see strength within themselves that they might not be able to see. I'm not like this. I'm not an extraordinary person, but I had an extraordinary circumstance that just helped pull something out of me that I didn't even know existed.
Where where do you think that came from, Chris? Was it lessons you learned earlier in life? I mean, did you have leaders that helped you through this time? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think one of the most important things for anybody to overcome adversity or even make a huge change or go after a big goal is who are the people you're surrounded with. Like the community of people is so important. Maybe it might be the most important part of resilience is just having people that are there to encourage you, who believe in you, who see more in you than you can see in yourself, who are positive, good examples that you want to strive to be like. And then also, it's on you. Another important part of that community is you got to be courageous enough, humble enough, vulnerable enough to ask for help. I think we live in this lone wolf world of like, I got to do it myself. Like I'm a self-starter. I can do it all. Well, your goals and your dreams, you're only going to go so far, so fast. Like if you're really thinking big, if you really have a big vision, then you can't do it by yourself. Like that's ridiculous. Like, and just like for me, like, oh my gosh, like this whole podcast would be me listing off names of all the people who have helped me to get me to where I am today. Like I might be doing this podcast, but oh my gosh, that the list goes on and on of all the people I asked for help. And I think my injury really forced me again to learn that because I was so dependent. I mean, I had to have my dad, feed me. Like I remember I learned some weird things about, not weird, but just different things. Like my dad, he's a big sauce guy. He would dunk my fries in ketchup. And I'm like, I don't want that much ketchup, Dad. Like just like weird things that I had to learn about my family, uh, or like chips and salt. Like the whole thing was like a little bit of chip with a giant thing of salsa. um, I'm going off a side tangent, but just the whole point of like, I had to get out of my comfort zone, asking for help, directing people more of like what I liked, what I didn't like. And here's what I'm thinking. I had to like be more communicative where before I was more of like a leader through example. Like I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to show up, but I'm not going to be real vocal and telling you what to do that, or I'm not going to ask you for help. And then here, no, if I want water, I have to ask for water. If I want food, I can ask for food. If I want to go into bed, if I want to get dressed, like all these different things now, like I am completely the bathroom, like you name it, like I have to ask for help. And so the same is true with, I started like a foundation. I don't know how to start a foundation. I was in college when we started the Chris Norton Foundation. No clue, but like I believed in the mission. Like I believed like people needed more chances for recovery, and I felt like they needed more higher quality of life to experience fun things. So having like a family wheelchair camp that we put on, again, clueless about all of that, but I kept talking about it. I asked people who they might not have the answer, but they could point me to somebody else who might have the answer. So that's all to say, like something like to please learn from me is don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a weakness. It's wisdom.
Yeah. Well, so that's so good. That's a great reminder for all of us. Like asking for help is not a sign of weakness, right? It's actually a sign of strength. It's so good. So obviously, from what we can tell, you are moving below your neck, which
Yep.
is fantastic. To see that you're in the 3%. And continuing on with your story, Chris, like what does that look like to get from that point to where you are now?
Yeah.
How much are you still dependent on, others, or how much of this are you still dealing with, and what has that been like to have it be more of a long-term thing that you get to respond to every day?
Yeah. So yeah, just like to move forward, like from, the 3% chance. Well, so I get going to work. I did the only thing I could do, which was nod my head yes and no, nod in my head for hours. I looked like a giant bobblehead, just kind of bouncing my head around. Now, eventually I shrugged my left shoulder. Like that was kind of like the big first, uh, next piece. Sensation started to move down. But in the ICU, you only get 1 hour of therapy a day, which is not enough. But once I transferred from the ICU to the rehab floor, I was able to get 3 hours. But after a few more days, I'm like, if you're trying to get your life back, 3 hours is not enough. So I asked for a fourth. The hospital said no. And I said, well, why not? And I said, well, insurance typically cuts off at 3 hours. Well, I was on a mission. I got that 4th hour. But then a few more days go by and I realized, 4 hours is still not enough. So I asked for a 5th hour. They said no again. This time, they meant it. I actually never got it. But instead, though, I have my PTs and OTs write up workouts I can do on my own outside of my scheduled therapy time. But the reality was, like, there was no walking again playbook. Like, I had to set my own standards for not only myself, but my entire team of clinicians. And kind of something I started to realize from all of this is that, the most successful teams and individuals, like, they're not waiting for the perfect direction. They take ownership to pave their own path forward. And that's kind of what I really started to do, was like, I had to own my recovery. Like, I had to own this workout, like this rep, like this day is mine. Like, and when your future will take care of itself when you take care of today. And so that was my thinking, because every single time I started thinking about down the road, like projecting like where I'm at right now to where I want to go, devastating. Absolutely devastating. I wanted to quit. Like, this is worthless. Like, what am I doing? And I had to fight that every single day of thinking about how far I wanted to go versus where I'm at. And something that really, like, it, where I really had to learn, like, started to learn this, came like the second week. I'm at the occupational therapy gym. I'm working on curling my left arm, and but my goal, wasn't to build beach muscles. It was to be able to feed myself, and getting the muscles to fire was a huge struggle. Well, then the OT ups the stakes. She grabs this half-pound ankle weight, velcros it around my hand and wrist. I'm staring at the weight like it's 50 pounds because my own body weight was heavy enough. Well, as soon as I curl this weight, like, my arm's shaking and I'm doing everything in my power to get this weight to my shoulder. When I do, my family and OT let out this huge cheer. It was so exhilarating. Like, I had just scored a touchdown. But then I flashed back to 2 weeks earlier when I was in the college weight room curling a 35-pound dumbbell with ease. And so in the middle of celebrating that measly half-pound, my cheers turned to tears. And I thought to myself, well, it's all this time just a huge waste of effort. And that's when I really had to meet, like, kind of like start to think about things of not where I want to go or how things used to be in the past, but like right here, right now. Like, I am going to be radically responsible for how I react. And while I can't always control what happens to me, I can control how I respond. And so that was just like a huge point for me. And when I share with people too, it's just really being radically responsible for that response, because it's so easy to get thinking about the past, of what I could have, should have. And so that was a big piece of my recovery. So I kept moving forward, kept progressing, week after week, but, I still wasn't moving anything in my legs. And that was the goal. I want to walk. Like that, I told people I'm going to walk out of the hospital. Well, 5 weeks go by and I'm still not moving anything in my legs. But then I felt this new sensation in my left big toe, like a Novocaine shot was wearing off. And I'm excited about it. And I tell my doctor about it. And he says, oh, this is a phantom feeling. It's quite common with your injury, but it's not progress. I disagreed. And I said, no, like, I think this is something more. It's not this phantom feeling. He shakes his head and says, Chris, you'll never move anything in your legs ever again. He just turns and walks out like it was no big deal. In under 2 minutes, this man had just ripped apart my hopes and dreams of ever walking again. And I'm sitting there with my dad, tears streaming down my face, devastated. And he tells me, like, Chris, like, do not let anyone tell you what your future is going to be like. Like, that's up to you. And so I respond with, I'm going to go prove him wrong. Well, not even a week later, on Thanksgiving morning, with my family by my side, I wiggle that exact left big toe that the buzzkill doctor said I would never move again. I was pumped. I was so fired up. I told all my nurses and therapists that day, you go find that doctor, who I like to call Dr. Phantom. Bring Dr. Phantom in here and tell him, so I can tell him to go phantom this. As I wiggle my toe in his face. Fortunately for him, though, he was gone that day, which definitely worked out for the best. I was way too fired up. I was going to say something I'd regret later on, but the toe wiggle, though, it became much more. I gradually gained strength in my quads, hamstrings, even able to stand with assistance. And I just like, oh man, the progress was like centimeters, inch at a time of progress and the overall goal. And so I just kept working and kept working. Just again, fast forward, I set the goal. I want to walk across the stage in my college graduation. Uh, had 4 years to get ready, so I thought that would be realistic, and I was able to walk that stage with the help of my then fiance Emily, who's my now wife. I proposed to her the day before graduation, and I had already asked her if she would help me walk across the stage. So thankfully, she said yes. Otherwise, the next day would have been really awkward. But she agreed to help me across the stage. That video would go viral, and it's been viewed like across social media like 300 million times, and we get to go on some of the largest talk shows like Good Morning America, and then set the goal. Okay, I'm going to walk Emily 7 yards down the aisle of our wedding, side by side, which is 3 yards further than our graduation. It's also the 7 years since my injury. Trained for that, was able to do that side by side, and that got turned into a movie and a book. Again, just it went viral. Got to go on more talk shows and whatnot. But my progress then after that, I really took a backseat to not maybe like I my priority shifted away from like physical training towards my mission of just giving people hope through my motivational speaking, my foundation, and then I have a family too. We have 5 kids through adoption and foster care is how we got our 5. But so today, I'm still in a wheelchair. I'm an incomplete quadriplegic, so I have movement in my arms and legs and everything, but I still need a lot of assistance for just day-to-day activities. But I try to do as much as I can on my own. But I can work my iPad. I'm on this computer now with you guys. I was able to set it all up. I have it all kind of stationed on my desk. But yeah, so the physical side, like I always thought that was a goal though, like again, walk on my own, be completely independent. Like that was just like the ultimate prize. But, as I've, gone this path, I have realized there's things way more important than just how physically strong you are, but like how emotionally and spiritually strong and the people you have in your life and really your life is as rich as the lives you enrich. And so I really embody that and try to do everything is through that lens of enriching others.
Yeah, that's so good. And I want to summarize a couple things at least that I heard, Chris, for our listener, as you went through all that. One, kind of like this theme of like, you won't let others tell you no. And I think a lot of us let people just tell us no or tell us what we can't do, and we accept that. And I love that. Like maybe that's the athlete or the competitor in you that that wouldn't allow that. I love what you talked to about. I mean, if anyone has a reason to dwell on the past or be mopey about the future, it could be you. And like to just be like, hey, I'm going to be present, and what can I do right now? Like that's such a valuable lesson. And I just think it shows leadership to be like, hey, now I'm on a mission to help others who are in the same circumstances I am. And we talk a lot about with leadership, it's often starting with yourself, and you've got to lead yourself before you can lead others. And so I think just those were three great examples. I heard you for me to summarize as I heard you talk through that. Love that.
Yeah. So Chris, can you talk a little bit about the staying present one? Because yeah, Drew, your synopsis there is spot on, right? Like if there's someone who has every right to be, bitter about the past or disappointed about the future, it would likely be you. And yet that, that happens to all of us very frequently. And so any like practical um things to share, Chris, like how you are able to stay present? Because that's one thing I think for a lot of people, myself included, it's a challenge to stay present, right? And it can be easy to leave the present moment and either go to the past or go to the future. So would love
Yeah.
anything you can share around that.
Yeah, I have a few things. I think, one, I try to aim for kind of this like 85-10-5 rule where it's like 85% of the time, like I'm going to be present. Like I'm going to be like focused on like today, 10% future thinking, 5% the past, right? While like, the past can be just a great um, learning points, right? What to do, what not to do, what's worked or not working to learn from that. 10%, you got to know where you're going, right? And have like some direction. But to really, I think, to be fulfilled, to be happy, to be energized, I think being really present, like in this moment, again today, is really helpful. And to be planted, where your feet are, or for me, where my wheels are. Um, and then I think to do that though, then there's some different like practices that I like to do. Like if I can't do that, if I find my mind, wandering, is to really, I kind of go journaling. I always kind of thought journaling was like, that's too basic, like elementary, like, come on, like there's got to be something else to really help with that. But I've actually I've gotten into it and have really helped. That's really given me like a way to just like transfer maybe some frustration or resentment, or like maybe something I just need to process or just get off. I can just get it off on a page. It kind of just clears my stinking thinking, and I really like uh, turning to journaling, or sometimes for me it's also like just listening to like worship music, or just talking to somebody, because what you don't want to do is have things just build up inside of you that you're not processing or dealing with. Like that's not helpful either. So I don't, like we have all things that we got to work through, and sometimes it's helpful to, if you can't do it on your own, to have a counselor or a trusted friend or family member that you can kind of go to, and um, to release something, because otherwise, yeah, your mind's not going to be present in what you're trying to do. Um, so those are a couple things that just right away jump out at me, and then also just having kind of a plan for that day, or kind of like a to-do list, checklist. I'm a checklist to-do list guy. Like when I have that, like that really helps me to be locked in to get things done. If I don't, I mean, it shows. I don't get as much done. I sometimes will fall into, especially like now, like I'm in way too hard on fantasy football. Like I love fantasy football. It's so fun. I have a couple leagues with my buddies, and yeah, especially in the summertime, that can get me sidetracked. So that's why I gotta have a list. I gotta have X, Y, and Z to do. Otherwise, I'm like looking at trades and all sorts of fun things.
Oh, that's great advice, Chris. We usually start with this question, and I don't know if Matt would agree, but I felt like I didn't want to interrupt your story as we were going along. We love asking people like how they would define leadership. Like there's a million ways you could define that. And I guess how would you define leadership? Like what does that word mean to you?
Yeah, I feel like a leader to me is somebody who can lead others, just like not by their example, um, but like in their spirit too. I feel like there's like an essence about somebody that is attractive, not like in a way that's superficial, about cars or money, but just you can see them they have like a humility, they have like a work ethic, they have their character integrity is high. So I don't know, it's like a leader just to me just embodies like a lot of just traits and things that you want to have in yourself, and you then are um, pulled to a higher level versus pulled down by somebody who makes poor choices or takes shortcuts, but somebody that just does it the right way and for the right reasons. So yeah, I kind of just think of a kind of a character-wise attractive individual that you admire. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, this has been so good, Chris. I'm inspired for sure. Thank you for like being willing to share your story, not just today with us, and always being willing to share it with a lot of people. Like, I think that it's really easy not to sometimes, as I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes you probably don't even feel like it, or you'd rather just not. And so thank you for being willing to. It's really inspiring to hear, and definitely like has left me with a lot of interesting insights and things to ponder.
Good. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm definitely have never been somebody who like uh, shares a lot about myself, but like through this journey, I've seen how like given the unique circumstances and how I had to respond and how you go about that, I can see like people just can learn from that. And like, again, it serves my mission to be able to kind of give people hope and help and motivation, then I'm more than happy to share my story. And I know for me, when I was going through everything, I looked to stories. Like I looked to other people who have overcome just crazy odds, and like, what do they do to overcome those odds and stay optimistic? So all those things, I know they matter. And so I'm grateful, yeah, to have a platform to share that with you guys, and I enjoy talking with you.
Well, if our listener wants to find more about you, Chris, where should they go?
Go to
Or speak?
chrisnorton.org. Yeah, chrisnorton.org would be the best spot to like learn about me, my speaking, uh, foundation, books, movie, all the good stuff, and then social media too. Um, I'm kind of active on social media. I just don't post as much as like a influencer does, but I do share like on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
Awesome. The last question we want to ask you, Chris, is our favorite question to end with people is how does Chris Norton want to be remembered?
Oh, how do I want to be remembered? I want to, again, I kind of like what I said about like a leader. Like I want to be somebody that um, just does things the right way for the right reasons, and is not going to take shortcuts, and going to live bravely and humbly, and just with a spirit that pulls people up, um, and just yeah inspires people to do great things. So we all got greatness inside of us. We all got like more strength than what we realize, and so I hope I can just be a kind of a light that helps draws that strength out, because then every person who responds to any sort of adversity with courage, you're inspiring somebody else to some degree, and you might not realize it, but all of our examples really impact others. So I just want to be that positive example for others.
It's awesome. Well, that's how I've experienced you today, man. Thanks again. This has been really, really great.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, Drew.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, great last name, Drew.
Yeah,
Strong.
yours too. Well, to our listener, today's the day.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.